Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're going to talk about a silent war, one that's reshaping our entire world as we speak. Now, this isn't a war with missiles or armies, nope. This one's being fought with silicon chips and software. And what's crazy is it's creating a new global superpower, like right in front of us. You've probably heard this quote before, right? It's from J. Robert Oppenheimer, and it basically announced the dawn of the nuclear age. It all came from this top-secret government program, the Manhattan Project, which, didn't just end World War II, it cemented America as the world's #1 military force. Well, believe it or not, a new Manhattan Project is happening right now. But this time, it's in China, and the goal? It's not a bomb. It's building a totally self-sufficient AI stack from the ground up. And here's the kicker. Just like the original, this whole thing was triggered by a conflict, a direct tech attack that was designed to stop China's AI emissions dead in their tracks. So you might be asking, how exactly did the US pull this off? Well, it wasn't just one move. It was this really carefully planned strategy, a three-pronged attack designed to completely choke off China's access to the essential building blocks of AI. The plan was to lock down 3 critical gates. Yeah, this 3-part strategy was basically meant to be a technological checkmate. The idea was to hit every single stage of chip production. And honestly, on paper, it looked perfect, absolutely foolproof. Okay, so let's start with gate 1, the brain. See, to design a modern chip, one with billions of tiny transistors, you need this incredibly complex software called electronic design automation, or EDA for short. And get this, the entire market is basically dominated by just 3 companies, all controlled by the US. So what did the US do? It was pretty clever, actually. They just locked all that essential software behind cloud licenses. Suddenly, it was impossible for Chinese companies to access the tools. And without that software, you literally can't even start designing a cutting-edge chip like an NVIDIA H100. Boom, gate 1 slammed shut. All right, on to gate 2, the hand. This is all about the physical manufacturing. You see, there's this one machine made by a Dutch company called ASML, and it is the only machine on the planet that can print the most advanced chips. It's probably the most complex thing humanity has ever built. But here's the twist. A tiny but absolutely critical part inside it, the light source, is made by an American company. By controlling that one little piece, the US could effectively control the entire machine. And just like that, gate 2 was locked down. And finally, gate 3. This one was a direct shot at the finished product, the hardware. In October 2022, the US government just flat out made it illegal to sell any high-performance AI chips to China. We're talking about the good stuff from companies like NVIDIA. So with the brain, the hand, and the hardware all blocked, the plan looked watertight. Game over, right? So yeah, with all 3 gates locked tight, China's AI dreams looked, well, dead in the water. It really did seem like checkmate. But this is where the story gets really interesting because Washington made one huge critical miscalculation. This is the pivot point for the whole thing. So what was it? What was the fatal flaw in this seemingly perfect American plan? What did they get so wrong? The answer, when you get down to it, is actually pretty simple. They treated China like a regular market economy. The whole US strategy was built on the assumption that Chinese tech companies would act just like American ones. Chase quarterly profits, keep shareholders happy, that kind of thing. But China wasn't playing that game at all. The government stepped in and basically changed the rules of engagement. Profits? They didn't matter anymore. The only thing that mattered was national survival and breaking free from US dependency, no matter what it cost. So they started pouring billions, and I mean billions, into their tech sector with that one single goal in mind. Okay, so with the full power of the state behind them, Chinese companies didn't just survive this attack. They got creative. They came up with 3 incredibly smart strategies to basically build their own way out of the cage the US had put them in. So first up, the software problem. They came up with this really clever new architecture. The best way to think about it is like a hospital, right? The American AI model, like ChatGPT, is a hospital where if you walk in with a scraped knee, you get seen by 200 different specialists, brain surgeons, heart doctors, the whole gang. I mean, it works, but it's super slow and ridiculously expensive. The Chinese model, on the other hand, it's like having a really smart receptionist, or router, who sees your knee and goes, you need the knee specialist. And that's the only person they call. It's just hyper efficient. Next problem, the data bottleneck. The US banned these super fast cables that let chips talk to each other. So what did China do? They came up with what you could call the IKEA sofa strategy.
It's brilliant. If America makes the doorway you're trying to get a sofa through smaller, what do? You don't try to shove the sofa through. You take it apart, put it in a flat pack box, and walk it right through. That's what they did with their data. They compressed it, like a zip file, to fit through the smaller bandwidth. Problem solved.
But the biggest challenge by far was the hardware. The chips China could actually make were, well, they just weren't as good. They were way less efficient. To get the same job done as one powerful American chip, they had to use a whole bunch of their own chips, and that cluster would burn through 4 times the electricity. Super inefficient and super expensive to run. And this is where China's response went from clever to just audacious. Instead of trying to magically build a better chip overnight, they did something else. They decided to just change the entire economic equation. They launched this thing called the ant colony strategy. It was this massive nationwide effort with a really simple, powerful idea behind it. If our chips burn 4 times more power, well, we'll just make the power 4 times cheaper. And the crazy thing is, they were perfectly set up to do exactly that. You see, China's geography is kind of split in 2. You have the east, which is where almost everyone lives, but then you have the west, which is vast, mountainous, and pretty much empty. It's the perfect place to build gigantic energy projects without bothering anybody. And that's what led to the East Data West Computing Project, which is honestly one of the biggest infrastructure projects in human history. They're doing some wild stuff. We're talking data centers built literally inside mountains to use the rock for cooling. They're sinking data centers to the bottom of the ocean. And they started covering the Gobi Desert in a sea of solar panels. Now, to give you a sense of the sheer scale here, that Gobi Desert project alone, it's on track to generate 450 gigawatts of power. I mean, what does that even mean? Well, to put it in perspective for you, that is more electricity than Germany and Brazil combined. It's just staggering. So, this absolutely massive national project, it didn't just help China survive the US sanctions. It did way more than that. It completely changed the global tech landscape forever. You see, instead of acting like a poison, the sanctions actually worked more like a vaccine. Yeah, it made the country sick for a little while, but it forced it to build up its own immunity. How? By creating a completely separate, totally independent tech ecosystem. So now, where the US has OpenAI, China has DeepSeek. Instead of NVIDIA, they have Huawei. Instead of Windows, they have Harmony OS. It's like a parallel technological universe was born. So when you step back and look at this whole insane story, there are really 3 huge takeaways. First, if you put sanctions on a strong, determined country, it can totally backfire and just make them stronger and more independent. Second, a country that's fighting for its survival plays a completely different game than one fighting for quarterly profits. And third, and this might be the most important one, in any game that needs tons of resources, like AI, whoever controls the energy, well, they have the ultimate upper hand. And that really brings us to where we are today. The whole US strategy was to build a cage, a technological cage around China. But what they never, ever expected was that China would respond by just building a whole new world outside of that cage. And that leaves us all with a huge question. What happens next in this brand new tech Cold War?